When Barron Trump stepped into a high-end restaurant, he didn't anticipate his MAGA hat to provoke a public uproar. What transpired next surprised not only the manager, but the entire city. It was a bright afternoon in Los Angeles, the type that makes you want to relax and enjoy the day. Barron Trump, now in his late teens, had finished a quiet morning of reading and decided to reward himself with lunch. He chose LA Terrace, a well-known restaurant noted for its sophistication and exclusivity, where it appears that every table has a story. Celebrities, CEOs, influencers. He'd been there previously and always enjoyed the relaxing atmosphere and excellent service. Barron stood out as he stepped through the glass doors, not only because he was tall, but also because he was wearing a bright red MAGA hat. He wore it comfortably as if it were something he was used to, not attempting to be controversial, but simply displaying a side of himself. The hostess, a woman in her mid-30s who appeared quite professional, greeted him and sat him at a corner table. The restaurant was not packed. A few individuals were sipping wine and spoke quietly. Barron opened the menu, appearing calm as he searched for what he wanted. He hadn't seen the looks at first. A man at the adjacent table nudging his girlfriend, a couple of servers conversing near the bar. But then the manager stepped out. The man in his mid-40s, dressed sharply and spoke sharply, walked rapidly to Barron's table, determined. "Excuse me," he remarked loudly enough for everyone to hear, "but we have a policy prohibiting political apparel here. I'm going to have to ask you to remove your hat." Barron looked up, shocked but not alarmed. He took out his earbuds and placed them on the table. "I was not aware of any policy like that," he said quietly. His voice was calm, courteous, and forceful. "It's under our code of behavior," the manager insisted, pointing vaguely toward the entrance. "We want this to be a neutral environment for all guests." Barron tilted his head slightly, considering what to do. He looked about. Some people were pretending not to hear, while others stared. "I'm not trying to make any trouble," he continued, his tone bland. "I am simply here for lunch." The manager seemed much stricter. "You need to remove the hat, or I'll have to ask you to leave." Barron hesitated, his expression unreadable. With a little nod, he pulled back his chair and stood up. "If that's how you feel," he replied evenly, "then I'll leave." Barron collected up his belongings, and the room became quiet. He left his untouched glass of water and walked out of the restaurant without saying anything. The door closed softly behind him, yet the tension inside remained. Barron stood outside the restaurant, taking in the nice California breeze. He adjusted his hat slightly, as if to ensure he still wanted to wear it, and took a deep breath. He wasn't angry, just dissatisfied and largely disappointed. He'd always been trained to be kind to others, even if they disagreed, and this felt like the opposite. Inside the restaurant, people were whispering. A waiter leaned in and asked the manager, "Do you think that was a smart idea?" "That's him." The manager waved him off. "We cannot make exceptions. Allowing him to stay sends the wrong message. This is my restaurant, and I will manage it the way I want." Meanwhile, Barron went a few blocks to a little park. He located an empty bench and sat down, pulling out his phone. He began typing, first to his mother, explaining what had happened, and then to a few close pals. He was not searching for pity, but rather to comprehend what had happened. Within minutes, responses began pouring in. One buddy texted, "That is ridiculous. They should not have treated you like that." Another person commented, "You handled that better than I would have." As he read his messages, he began to form an idea. He was not interested in vengeance or a public brawl. Instead, he saw an opportunity for something productive and significant. If the restaurant wished to avoid making political statements, why not demonstrate how essential unity and understanding are? Barron stood up with determination. He began making calls, his voice calm yet deliberate. "Hey, I need your help with something," he began over the phone. The first of many talks that would kick off his scheme. Back at the restaurant, things were tense. As other diners shared their stories, word spread on social media about what had happened. "They booted out Barron Trump for a hat," one post said, along with a fuzzy photo of the incident. Another person asked, "Freedom of expression? I guess not at LA Terrace." The manager, who was gazing at his phone at the bar, began to worry. The comments piled up, and not all of them were positive. "Let them chat," he whispered to himself, attempting to ignore the sense of remorse. But deep down, he wasn't so certain. By the time Barron arrived home, the incident had begun to get notoriety online. Several local personalities have shared the story, with captions ranging from supportive to critical. Barron glanced at the posts but did not focus on them. He didn't want to exacerbate the situation or further divide people. His attention was on doing something to turn this bad circumstance into a good one. Barron sat at his desk and wrote in a little notebook. He reflected on what had occurred that day, not only with the management, but also with the others watching, the silent judgments, and the inquisitive eyes. What could he do to encourage conversation rather than conflict? He wanted to tackle the division in a way that was both personal and profound. The idea struck him unexpectedly. A public fundraising, not just any fundraiser, but one with a strong message of unity. He envisioned an event that would benefit poor communities, with a focus on building safe spaces for open conversation and understanding. He picked up his phone and called. "Hello, this is Barron Trump. I need some guidance on how to organize a charity event. Yes, it is urgent. Can we meet tomorrow?" The guy on the other end appeared astonished, but shortly consented. Barron's strategy developed during the evening. He developed a plan for the fundraiser and decided to place it up directly outside LA Terrace. He intended the setting to demonstrate that even in times of war, togetherness can be found. A close buddy volunteered to help with the logistics, and things began to move within hours. Meanwhile, at the restaurant, things were getting worse. The manager's decision was no longer secret. It had sparked a public debate. News outlets began reporting on the tragedy, citing what they had witnessed. Some stories suggested that Barron had been handled unfairly, while others backed the restaurant's right to set its own regulations. The restaurant's social media platforms received a rush of remarks. Some praised the manager, while others called for a boycott, claiming that the decision was hypocritical. One comment read, "So much for a neutral area. Kicking someone out is not neutral, it is taking a side." The personnel at LA Terrace sensed the strain. Regular clients canceled reservations, leaving the once busy restaurant markedly quieter. The manager, who had initially felt confident in his judgment, was now having second thoughts. He told himself it will pass, but deep down, he wasn't convinced. As night fell, Barron prepared for what lay next. He understood the fundraiser wouldn't change what had happened, but he hoped it would move the focus to something positive. The world did not need more disagreements. It needed moments of connection, even in the most improbable circumstances. The following morning, the peaceful street in front of LA Terrace began to shift. Trucks unloaded equipment, while volunteers set up tables, banners, and a small stage. Barron stood in the center of it all, ensuring that everything was running smoothly. The banner over the stage said, "United we stand, building bridges, not walls." He had contacted many organizations dedicated to community building, youth mentorship, and conversation. The benefit was more than just generating money. It was also about bringing people from various backgrounds together. Food trucks, live music, and booths for local charity lined the sidewalk, transforming what had previously been a source of contention into a vibrant community event. By midday, a crowd had gathered, including families, young professionals, activists, and even some familiar faces from social media. Barron took the microphone to address the audience. His voice was firm yet full of emotion. "Yesterday, I was asked to leave this restaurant because of my hat. That is okay. I respect their policies, even if I disagree with them. But what struck me was not just being turned down, it was the larger picture. We've become so eager to criticize each other, take sides, and end talks. That is not who we are. We can do better." The audience cheered, and Barron added, "This event isn't about me, nor is it about them. It's about all of us finding ways to listen, understand, and work together. The funds we raise today will support programs that promote discourse and inclusivity. Thank you for being present and demonstrating that unity is stronger than division." Barron exited the stage after receiving stronger applause.